And I think that's the key of it being a good game, that it doesn't matter. It's really like harking back to more the original Zelda, the one where it was completely free form and you could tackle things in any order if you knew the methods of getting there and all that stuff.
I guess before we start getting into the actual game itself, what were you expecting?
I guess I was expecting going into it that it was going to be a very different Zelda game. I don't think that I realized just how different it was going to be. I was not expecting it to be as RPG as it was, and I've loved every moment of it.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it to be as big as it was.
Just a bigger, grander Zelda.
Something like that, or just like a nicer looking Ocarina of Time.
I really wasn't expecting the weapon systems. That was kind of a shocker.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Like, I wish more games did that, where you just, everything breaks and you can't just kind of hoard really good shit. And, you're like forced to try different weapons.
I'm kind of weird, because everything that I've played so far is more or less meeting the expectations I had.
See that mountain? You can climb that mountain.
Yeah, pretty much. And I quite literally have done that at this point. I see, like, what's that weird shit in the distance that's flying up in the sky? Let me go get closer. Oh, that's a giant robot. Hey! Just getting closer to that, like, that's like a mark of, like, oh, I'm almost there. Oh, wow, it's huge, and it's just this giant thing that you can do a quest on and take care of as you go there. And makes you wonder what else little hidden nooks and crannies have things out there too. And it's just impressive in general. Like, I'm fully impressed by what Nintendo was able to make here.
Yeah, I never expected that I would, especially in like a Zelda game, have that where I just look at something and go, I wonder what that is, and go walk like to the other side of the map and actually have fun. Because normally in these kind of games, I just power through the story and then I'm done with it. And with this one, I don't even know where I am in the story. I'm probably still pretty early, but it doesn't matter.
And I think that's the key of it being a good game, that it doesn't matter. It's really like harking back to more the original Zelda, the one where it was completely free form and you could tackle things in any order if you knew the methods of getting there and all that stuff.
For me, it's just been... I'm still pretty early on, so it's just getting used to the weapon systems. I tend to just go in a direction and just start exploring. It seems like it's going to be one of those games where a year from now, 10 years from now, we'll still be discovering new things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also surprised at like the detail in this. Just, there's so many little things that you wouldn't expect them to pay attention to, and even like a lightning storm. I had no idea that would come up, and I just got destroyed on top of the mountain because I had a metal shield equipped. Like, I'm loving that kind of stuff.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's super frustrating.
No, the attention to detail is fantastic. Even on, like, little things, like, you pick up a rock and one of the little Koroks are right under it and they say, "You found me," and gives you the seed. You drop the rock immediately on the Korok and he shouts, "Ouch."
I love that. I felt so bad when I did that the first time.
I felt bad too, but it was like, oh, that's kind of, like the little things like that. Another one happened to me where I was near a bridge, like on a ledge, like was about to jump into the water, and a random passerby said, "Hey, don't jump, we can talk about it."
That's hilarious.
And it was just like, I did not, you don't expect little things like that.
Yeah.
But it's those things that give the world actual character, and it really helps in like selling the world being believable, being alive. A lot of like open world games, Skyrim or Elder Scrolls in particular, always has that like stigma of being very static, very frozen.
It's like that. Yeah, it's the what is it? Wide as an ocean, as deep as a puddle.
Yeah, something like that.
It's so different from the Ubisoft perspective or The Witcher, where your map is completely covered.
I love the Koroks though, just because you see like an unusual formation of rocks, or like, oh, those trees look really weird, and then you walk up and it's this like unmarked puzzle that is like oddly satisfying to figure out.
And there's like hundreds of them too. How many Koroks are there
900
out in the world? Are you
900?
serious?
Yeah, I'm 100% serious. There's 900 Koroks. So think about it.
That's confirmed?
Oh my god.
Yes, I believe so.
I got 15 and I thought I was like on my way to getting them all.
Yeah, I'm at like 25 or something.
Is anybody playing this like a stealth game, or are you all just kind of running in and killing everybody?
I've actually been doing a lot of stealth-based kills as of late because I've been noticing in certain areas the enemies are much stronger than what they would have been like in like the Great Plateau, for example. Like the different colored enemies.
That's actually I saw a screenshot from like the official Breath of the Wild guidebook. That's actually the more like moblins you kill, the higher the likelihood of more difficult moblins will appear everywhere.
Oh, really?
So
That
even
makes
if
so
you
much
went
sense
back
now.
to like the Great Plateau, if you spent your entire game farming Lizafalls and moblins, the bokoblins that appear everywhere would all be the standard color. Whereas you'd start getting the blue, red, and like white variants of all of the others.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
So
cool.
yeah, even if you go back to the Great Plateau now, you will start seeing those higher level monsters.
That makes sense because I'm like back there, kind of doing some shrines, and everybody seems way stronger than like when I left.
Yeah. So it's not like a game like, Fallout, where if you start the game in one corner of the map, the further you get away from where you started in the game, the harder enemies get. But there is like an actual scale of enemy difficulty, and I'm getting to the point now where pretty much every camp I get to is like two blue variants and one white, if not 3 or 4 white variants.
Oh yeah. Was anyone surprised at how difficult this game is? I was, only because I'm so used to like Zelda games being like accessible and kind of easy, and then this one, I think I've died more in this game than I did in Bloodborne.
It's interesting because if you really look back at like the entire history of Zelda, it always was a challenge. But what made it easy over time was that it kind of fell into the routine of that challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess so.
And what's happened with like a lot of the Zelda games since I would honestly say since Wind Waker on, is that they have been getting a little bit easier and more routine. Like the easiest Zelda game I ever played was actually a Link Between Worlds. Remember that one from
3DS.
the 3DS?
DS?
Yeah, the 3DS. Whatever it was. The one where they did, you could rent all the weapons and not die and all that stuff.
I love that game.
I wasn't a big fan of it because I felt like it was too easy because we could take
All the items, yeah.
the items and rent them and just win.
I just like the openness of that, which I can see definitely they kind of kept that mindset with this one.
I feel like they did a lot better in Breath of the Wild because like Link Between Worlds was like trying to be, here's your dungeon crawler, so you can tackle the dungeons in any order. You need a specific weapon to get to them, or the specific weapon to use in the dungeon to win against the boss or whatever. Like the standard formula has been since like Ocarina of Time or whatever.
The two on the DS were pretty easy as well.
Yeah, like the DS versions always seem to be a little easier compared to the console. This game I'm struggling to get through bosses half the time, and I'm burning through lots of resources to keep myself afloat. Like first time I fought a Lionel, holy crap.
Dude, I still haven't gone back and beaten that first Lionel that I met.
Oh, the first Lionel I met was on the side of a mountain. And I was like, who is that thing? And he just shot an arrow at me and I exploded because it was a fire arrow.
Was that the Lionel in the Zora domain shoots the shock arrows.
Yeah, I can't even get close to that one because he has one-shotted me with the shock arrows. I found that it's better to avoid him and just get out of there quickly.
I was adventuring on a mountaintop the other day and ran into a silver Lionel, which from what I can gather, is the hardest enemy in the game.
I still stand by Zelda 2 is the hardest.
Zelda 2 is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Zelda 2 is pretty tough.
I would say Zelda 2 is the hardest, but Breath of the Wild, in terms of like combat, I have like 8 or 9 hearts, and I still get one shot by a single electric arrow in the rain.
I
Yeah.
love that when you get hit by an electric arrow, you drop your weapons.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
It's so frustrating. Because I'll finish a fight and all of my crap is just like all over the field.
Right.
What's everyone's impression of the story so far? Like, are you surprised it's a bit more in depth, or did you not like it? Like, what's your opinion on it?
Like, this is the first story in a while that feels very Zelda-like. And what I mean by that, like, again, maybe this is just my own nostalgia goggles on it a little bit, but like, you know, like the first couple of Zelda games, it was all like told in text in the manual and nothing really in the game. But like the first real big stories we ever got were Link to the Past and then Ocarina of Time, and both of those felt epic and long drawn out, and you felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders. Like Wind Waker, you didn't get that, although Wind Waker still has a very fantastic story. Twilight Princess, I felt like the story was really flat outside of a rather decent game. And then, like, other subsequent Zeldas have always been kind of falling into that, Link must save the world because it's prophecy and all that shit, you know? Like,
Yeah, it's
all
almost
that
like
stuff.
like a trope at this point.
Yeah, and this is the first time where that trope is still there, but it feels incredibly appropriate. And, like, this is the first time where, like, you do feel the weight of all that, like, pressure on Link a little bit, because he's basically the last hope of a world that's on the verge of destruction. And, oh, there's somebody's food is ready. That's alright.
Zordon needs you.
Zordon needs us. Go Power Rangers.
That was
Find teenagers with attitude. But not like it's like the world is on like this brink of destruction. The world looks like it's been destroyed and everybody's isolationists, you know. And all of a sudden you have this one person who is struggling to find out his past, and in turn has basically been thrusted into the spotlight of saving the world again. You know, the way they've done it, they chose to do it with all these flashbacks and like this more cinematic take that we haven't really seen in a while with the Zelda game.
I do love that it's not spoon-fed to you. Like, you're not just, you know, all right, now you're in this town and here's this long cutscene that's going to play, and like, it's so the opposite of every other open world game that's come out lately.
It's like-
yeah, and
Like,
it's,
you have
like
to
that-
actively seek it.
and it's actually
Yeah, that's
like
like
that.
well, the other thing.
and
I'm sorry, that was the other thing I was gonna say too. Like, you could miss a lot if you don't look for it, which is a really important point.
yeah, I like that. I must be, gosh, like 25 to 30 hours in, and I've only done one of the 4 main dungeons, and you know, finding out story through going to each of the 4 dungeon areas and whatever. You can do it that way. Like, there's the flashbacks, which are cool. You can basically get as much story out of it as you want, which I thought was pretty neat. And you
Yeah,
can do
I'm
it,
loving that.
and you can build the story however you want. Like, I went to Zora's Domain first, but I know there's 3 other places, and I know for a fact you can go to any one of them in any order. So you can kind of build up the story exactly the way you want to, which I thought was really cool. Like, it's the same story, but told in different ways, depending on who's playing.
I think that's been a really cool thing to be able to talk with all of you guys at TechRaptor, but also friends in real life that are playing.
In real life.
Yeah, no, that's a joke. I don't have friends. You caught me.
Ha.
But just to have that experience of saying, you know, oh, this person's playing it Dark Souls style, you know, I'm playing it very traditional Zelda and just doing everything. But it's you've kind of got to be, at least, you know, for this, you know, first month of the game being out or whatever, you've got to be quite careful about what you do and do not say. because someone might say, oh yeah, like I've only finished 2 of the main dungeons, and someone would immediately be like, oh my god, like that boss fight was so easy, like I just kept doing this, or like, oh, did you find this thing way off here in this, remote corner of the map where you would never normally search? It's like, no, I haven't. So it's
Like,
Yeah.
like no, I meant
Well, it's
these
like
2 bosses, not that one.
exactly.
Well, it's like how, like, some people didn't know that you can get hit by lightning. And, like, I just love that so many things just kind of happen in this game.
I found that out the hard way.
I think
Yeah.
we all did.
Ooh.
Yeah, it respects your intelligence, unlike other Zelda games. Even though, I love Zelda. But, like, certain games are like, go here, do this. Go here, do this. Hey, did you know if you maybe go over there, you can start a side quest? Whereas Breath of the Wild is like, hey, there's a little bit of tutorial if you want to do it on the Great Plateau. Otherwise, you can literally just say, screw this, I'm out, and go and do whatever you want to do.
But just that, it's you get this feeling of like, when you do something that is not like the obviously intended way to do it, you get this feeling of like, oh, haha, I've outsmarted the game. And it's like, well, no, this is totally within the capacity of the game. You're not, phasing through a wall and then popping out and getting, the Master Sword super early or something like that. It's that you're using all of these tools that the game has given, and it's fantastic physics engine, and just exploring and seeing what you can do. If you have an idea, try it. It will probably work.
How long did it take you guys to learn how to cook? Because for me, I was tossing apples into the fire and just trying everything for probably at least 2-3 hours.
I fucked up my first meal for sure, and I love that when it's a bad meal, it's like pixelated and it's censored almost.
Food.
But it didn't take too long where it was like, okay, if I use 4 of these lizards and 1, apple, maybe I'll get something cool.
Yeah.
I love the music that plays when he cooks.
Oh, the little jingle.
Yeah, it's just so relaxing. What's been the biggest surprise for you so far?
The extent to how free you are to do whatever you want. Like, it's the perfect balance of it's entirely on you to go where you want to go. You can literally go anywhere. Like, they weren't kidding when they said you can get to Ganon in like 15 minutes if you're smart.
Well, good luck fighting him.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the first thing I did, I started with Kakariko Village, and then right after that I went right for the Hateno Village. So I did that stuff. I'm sure everybody probably did that stuff early on as well.
I think the game actually does a good job of like guiding you to the Zora domain first. Like, you can do everything, but it definitely did feel like, oh, if you keep going this way, you'll end up in the land of the Zoras. And at that point, you're like,
Well,
I
it was
don't know
the
where
closest one,
anything
too.
is.
Yeah.
So, sure.
I actually avoided the Zoras. I avoided Zora Domain first. I decided, you know what? I see this giant, like, flying thing in the sky in the west. I'm going to that first, and I did, and it was worth it, because Rito Village and everything with Van Meadow was really good, I'm going to say. And another thing, like, that we haven't talked about, like, the design of the villages is also really well thought out, too.
Oh, yeah.
Zora Domain, Rito Village, the Gerudo cities.
Yes, they're all very much set for the people who inhabit them.
Yes, and it's like the first time in a long time there's like this geography and ecology and like this sort of like ancient history that the races of Hyrule have.
I mean,
It's not just like Hylians and Gorons and other thing. It's like these guys have a culture behind them.
yeah, the fact that they gave the Gerudo people a language. We only hear little bits and pieces like greetings and ve and vo for male and female, but
Yeah, like another like little detail, like the Zoras apparently they live a long time now, which I think is a really nice touch. Because first time I was in there, like, oh Link, it's been 100 years. I remember when I was a kid talking to you, and I was like, wow, that's a good I like that. That's
World
fantastic.
building.
Yeah, and that's great, because Zelda, of any game like that Nintendo has, Zelda's one of the few that really should have world building in it. It really, like, it deserves it, I would say.
Well, I've just reached Hateno Village, and for me, it's just the landscape around it. It's like you're visiting Northern Europe. You see the windmills and just kind of exploring around.
It's just little things like that, add to it as well. I also like the fact that the Sheikah now actually are a race in Zelda, whereas like they were like a dying race that sort of disappeared centuries ago. Now I guess this is their coming out party in a lot of ways, where they're there in force now.
All right, final question. What do you want to see next? Like, do you want the next game to be like this, or to go back to like a linear thing, or
I would
yeah.
I would like a bit of both. I like the dungeons in this one, or the dungeon rather. Like I said, I only did one, but I like the open world, and I like the little shrines. But I really do like the traditional dungeon layout. Like these are good, but I'd prefer, I love like Stone Tower Temple. That's like a dungeon that has a lot of complexity to it, while still being like a fully fleshed out dungeon, and not just like a giant room or two with a bunch of puzzles in them.
I think it's going to be hard to go back. After experiencing this, I think if we go back to the Ocarina of Time setup, it might just feel outdated.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it's kind of that this open world Zelda might be its own thing. We talk about the differences between 2D Zelda and 3D Zelda, and how different they are from each other. That it might now be that we've got 2D Zelda, 3D Zelda, and open world Zelda. That it might be that, every couple of years we get a 3D and then a 2D and then, a brand new open world Zelda, and it just might be adding to it. I guess another example would be like, we talk about 3D Sonic and 2D Sonic. It's like they're both Sonic, but they're both very different experiences.
This Zelda at its heart's always going to be an adventure game, no matter what form it is. Like, if you really look at this game, this is like, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's like an RPG. Honestly, it's not really one. It's all about choosing your progression in this case. And I think, more than anything else, this has been the staple of what makes Zelda so good, just as a series. Breath of the Wild is just a reimagining of the everything that's been learned about Zelda for the past 30 years, back from the original Zelda release, where it was completely different from everything on the market. Open world game, anything you can think of, you can do it, that type of stuff. And we finally have come full circle. And now it has taken everything it's learned, has seen what others have done, many of which who have been influenced by Zelda. Did you guys see that tweet by the guys from Software? Recently. Yeah, somebody was on like Twitter saying, it sucks that Zelda's like stealing from Dark Souls or something like that, or whatever it is. And the guys from Software says, well, we stole from Nintendo for this. We've been doing that for years, so...
It's literally just, you see something that works, you try to apply it to your own formula.
And that's what this is. This is Zelda, the Legend of Zelda series as a whole of what it could be in the modern era, and Nintendo did it. I don't think Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, those type of sort of linear progressive adventure style games, I don't think they could play that much anymore.
Oh.
In the way it is. And I'm hoping that what they see here, where, like, the shrines, for example, the use of the shrines has been very clever. the mini dungeons and things like that. The amount of detail in like simple crafting mechanics with cooking and elixirs, and the use of hundreds of different weapons with different attack power and degradation bonuses, and environmental effects, and all of this all together. I just want them to build on this further, because just imagine if they can continue a game like another Zelda game with this continuity and this style of play, and just make it bigger and better over the next couple of years.
Majora's Mask version of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, fuck. Oh, Majora's Mask as in the Breath of the Wild engine in this world would be phenomenal.
That would be pretty great.
I have a question that I thought you were going to ask. Is this the best Zelda game in the series now?
For me, yes, definitely. For me it is. Before that, it was the original one, and this hits every note that I like in that and exceeds it.
I think for me the jury is still out. I think I'm kind of still in this feeling of like the difference between that 2D and 3D Zelda game, and whether I like the idea of like kind of open world Zelda being a thing.
Yeah, I still need more time to obviously finish the game first, and then kind of like digest it, let it sit for a while before I can, because like I can be caught up in the hype right now, but I want to make sure I take a step back and to the point when I can actually rate it alongside the other ones to decide. But I am enjoying it for what it's worth.
That's a good point. The hype is definitely really strong right now with this one.
It seems to me though it did actually meet it, which is a very rare thing now.
Yeah, that's you were talking earlier about kind of how Nintendo said that they would make this big open world Zelda adventure and using all these different aspects that we have seen in other games but in their own Zelda way. And I think kind of the biggest thing that took a lot of people by surprise is Nintendo nailed it. They absolutely hit the nail on the head. They delivered exactly what they were going to, and they've already now promised in like 3-4 months there's going to be more content, and then in a further 5 months after that there's going to be even more content. This is kind of one of the first games in a long time that it hasn't felt like I've been buying 80% of a game, or I've been buying 70% of the game and having to pay the season pass fee to get that like final 30% to round it up to 100. This is a game I feel it's done. They finished it. They hit the nail on the head. They produced a fantastic game, and it just really shines through with a lot of recent, more misleading game releases.
I don't know. For me, this is probably the best Zelda game I've ever played since Majora's Mask. And if you look like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask back to back, those were both like top tier games, you know what I mean? They're just that special. And this is like on par with that, like even more so than Wind Waker, which I really liked, even more so than Twilight Princess, which I really liked. And it's kind of exciting, because it's the first time in a long time where I don't feel like I'm going through the motions in a game, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I gotta play it because, it's obligatory. I enjoy playing it by going through everything to see what I can discover and how it could be different from, like, another person playing it at the same time, same place.
I'm still early on, so I can't really put it in context of other Zeldas yet. But just from the beginning, you have a path. It's not slowly weaving you in. You can pretty much do anything from the first hour on.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed by this whole thing that in 6 months I'll hate it.